All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, guys. I'm looking forward to talking to my next guest. I'm sure many of you will recognize her. I'm sure many of you have read her work. You've seen her all over television, Fox News, Newsmax, you name it. She seems to have blown up, and it's an honor to have her on. I'm speaking of Brianna Lyman of The Federalist. She's an election correspondent at The Federalist. And I want to talk to her about her latest column, or one of her latest columns, and it's about the media. And the only way to stop the corporate media from lying is by literally making them pay. And of course, she's talking about President Trump going after corporate media for all of the lies, the lawfare, and all this nonsense that they've done, which essentially amounted to election interference. Brianna Lyman, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you this: do you, when it comes to these people in the mainstream media, corporate media, and you talk about obviously CBS and the edited version of 60 Minutes and all this kind of stuff, do you believe that they believe that they're being fair and balanced, or that perhaps they're being noble by doing some of the editing that they did in order to hurt Trump's campaign?
Yeah, and I saw an interview with Chris Cillizza. I think I might have mispronounced his last name, but he was essentially saying that as journalists heading into the Trump administration, they have to do what they've been doing. And it's like, what part of being a journalist includes maligning, falsely smearing someone, and lying to your audience? Like, that's actually not a tenet of journalism. But unfortunately, like you said, the left-wing corporate press, which I think is best described as the propaganda press, no longer sees themselves as truth tellers, but rather as the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party, which is why you see such heavily biased reporting. And I read a report in Semaphore, I think it was today, and one of Kamala Harris's campaign advisors said, look, we didn't really feel a need to sit down with the New York Times or the Washington Post because those readers are already in the bag for us. And the only reason that they were confident that those readers were in the bag for them is because the New York Times, Washington Post, and a bunch of other left-wing outlets have done the bidding for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They give skewed coverage.
Do you think there's any redemption? For these people, do you think there's an opportunity for redemption? Do you think corporate media, propaganda press, do you think they're over and done with?
I really do. I think the only maybe bit of salvation that an outlet could have would be, CNN. I see Scott Jennings. He's a CNN contributor. Yeah. He gets a lot more airtime, I feel like, since, the past few months. Bringing on more conservative voices may help them. But, you saw what they did to Ryan James Gerdusky. He made a joke. It was the least offensive thing said during that segment. Right. There were a bunch of other things said, and they banned him from the network, right? So they're really not actually willing to have thought diversity. And without thought diversity, they are going to continue to sink. And I think non-traditional media outlets, independent reporters, social media, personalities, and podcasts are the new way forward, especially for campaigning.
Brianna, and again, I'm speaking to Brianna Lyman of The Federalist. You can find her at The Federalist, find her work at The Federalist. And then I think it's at Brianna Lyman 2, if I recall correctly, on X. So make sure you give her a follow there. But you spoke about George Stephanopoulos, and obviously Trump just settled a lawsuit against, I can't believe this, but Trump just settled a lawsuit against ABC, and George Stephanopoulos, from what I understand, he has to pay, I think, $1 million of his own money, and then CBS is going to cough up the rest. And I got to be honest with you, I was kind of torn about this, but now I'm happy about it, because I love the fact that Trump is sticking up for. I feel like he's sticking up for us when he's going after the mainstream media, because I do believe that they intentionally interfered in elections. And I got to be honest with you. When I was talking about politics during George W. Bush's administration, I was a little disappointed that I felt like he didn't stick up for us, and he let the media run wild and just completely lie about him.
Yeah, for a while, I think, between maybe like 1960 to the early 2000s, there was this idea that the media was this establishment that could very well be trusted. And if you question that establishment, you were wrong, because they would basically say, well, there's no reason to not trust us, right? But we have seen the downfall of the propaganda press over the past few years because they have done so much lying. And I think when we think of what happened with George Stephanopoulos, he made the false allegation that Donald Trump was found liable for rape. And some people will say, well, it was misspeak, whatever. But I have a friend, he's in his 80s, And he is a liberal. And when we were talking after the election, he said, but Donald Trump was found liable of rape. How could you vote for him?
Right.
And I said, that's not true. And when you realize that people bought those lies spread by the media and Democrats hook, line, and sinker, and that influenced how they vote, then those media personalities should be held accountable for flat out lying. It's not like he just had an opinion that, Donald Trump sucks. He lied and smeared Donald Trump's reputation as a rapist. That is a heavy charge against someone who was found to not have, that wasn't what the court decided.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then, even if you go back to Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and to this day, I talk to people that believe this guy was a gang rapist. I'm like, are you? This is complete and utter insanity. So I'm glad. I don't know if Trump will prevail at these lawsuits. And I'd love to get your take on that. But I do believe that they're a good idea if for no other reason than to give some of these networks pause so they'll do their job.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't know how successful these other lawsuits against, Ann Selzer, CBS for 60 Minutes, I don't know how successful they will be. But what I will say is, I think it was Semaphore, they had another report that Axios senior legal counsel was telling reporters, basically, don't defame anyone or you're going to be, in trouble with the law. The fact that you needed lawyers to say that to reporters, right, hey, don't defame anyone because you might get in trouble, is telling of where we are with the media. It's telling that they never saw themselves as truth tellers, but rather propagandists. And if they had to smear someone, they had to smear someone, right? That's why we've seen the coverage we have. And so if Donald Trump successfully suing ABC News had the chilling effect of other outlets saying, hey guys, don't break the law, then that's a win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I hearken back to 2015 when Donald Trump was running, and it seemed to me they were giving him so much play in the media. And I think they were trying to set him up because they believed that there was no way that Donald Trump could defeat Hillary Clinton. And I almost feel like that was their intention. Let's bolster this guy up. Let's crowd out the field or cut out the rest of the people. Don't give them as much, free airplay, if you will. And then it backfired on them. That's what I believe happened to them. Do you think they're trying to make up for that?
That's a great point, by the way. I think that's a wonderful way to put it. They shot themselves in the foot. They stepped on a rake, what they did in 2016. I think what they're doing now is they are trying to salvage their base. We have seen, again, viewers turn to non-traditional sources of media. And you see major outlets essentially failing. They have really low rates of viewership. People aren't subscribing anymore. And the only way they think that they can salvage their reputation in some cases is to actually double down on the failed practices, when in reality, they need to do what the Democratic Party should be doing, which is looking inward and seeing what went wrong, what didn't reach or resonate with the American people, and they need to feel the pulse of the nation. And until they're willing to feel the pulse of the nation, they will continue to lose more viewers because people don't trust CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, because they have been carrying water for Democrats as if that was their number one priority rather than telling the truth.
Brianna, being in this business, are you surprised to see how far the left dug in as far as election interference is, as to smear Trump, to defame Trump, even all of these lawfare cases that popped up against Trump? And totally, not to mention the Hunter Biden laptop story, which they totally ignored. Are you just? Is there any part of you that's like, man, I'm just surprised these people were just willing to throw away all of their credibility just to get Trump?
I'm not surprised. This is when people say they don't like the establishment. This is what they mean. When you have all different facets coming together to target one person, and when you say, well, why would they target, in this case, Donald Trump? He threatens their establishment, and the establishment is not a good thing for the future of this country. And I think all of these media outlets, there was a lot that Democrats did to try and drag first Joe Biden across the finish line and then Kamala Harris. The lawfare was their biggest. When they realized that was failing, you saw the propaganda press really start picking up that water, especially after Kamala Harris was announced as the nominee, because they knew that they were the last chance. And unfortunately, what they didn't realize is so many people weren't listening to them that all their hard work to, get Kamala across the finish line, it didn't actually work. They couldn't get her across the finish line. They got her right up to it, but Donald Trump just ran across it because of podcasts, radio, doing lives, going on outlets that don't really like him. This man was doing whatever it took to win this race.
All right, I'm speaking to Brianna Lyman. She is an elections correspondent at The Federalist. Make sure you check her out at thefederalist.com. We have less than a minute left. Okay, Brianna, I'm going to ask you this question. How long do you think it'll be? I'm seeing a lot of repentance from the mainstream media all of a sudden. How long do you think it'll be once Trump is inaugurated that they turn again?
Oh, I mean, it is going to be, I wouldn't put it past them. January 1st, they're going to have the left-wing hysteria coverage about what a threat to democracy Donald Trump is. They're going to probably hire specific people for a department because they need to find a way to stay relevant. And they think this is it. They haven't learned their lesson.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I totally agree with you. They have not learned their lesson. I'm not even sure they're capable of learning a lesson at this particular point. But anyway, Brianna Lyman of The Federalist, make sure you check out her work. I absolutely love her work. She's a rock star, no doubt about it. We appreciate you coming on to the Carl Jackson Show, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Carl Jackson here for My Pillow. Guys, Christmas is only 8 days away. My Pillow is excited to announce that their Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while supplies last. They're famous My Slippers. These haven't been on sale for over a year. They're regularly priced at $119.98, but for a limited time, you can get them for $59.98. And their 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantity, so act fast. They're only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list, from bathrobes to duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. Go to mypillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263 and be sure to use the promo code CARL to save on all of MyPillow products. That's promo code CARL. Their flannel sheets are as low as $59.98. Their 6-piece towel set, again, $29.98. And that's not all. They're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code CARL.